Good morning, Vicki. Thank you so much for joining me so early in the morning.
My pleasure, Kate. My pleasure.
It's been a really beautiful experience drawing together this series on grace that we're working with in December. And I was delighted when you actually said yes, that you would come and talk. So much appreciation for that.
Thank you. It was lovely to have you reach out, and it also gave me the invitation to expand my own feeling or thoughts around grace.
Hmm. You know, for me anyway, grace is such a state of spaciousness, and hopefully even just taking your mind into the concept of grace is a pause in normal events, isn't it? So I'm glad you've taken that opportunity. We're going to go through, and I'm going to be asking you quite a few questions about grace, and of course, it's not formulaic, so this discussion could go just about anywhere. So I'm just going to change the view so that we can see you and not me, and then let's talk about grace. Here we go.
Mhm.
Okay, there we are. That's done. So now you said you've thought a little bit into it and you've sent over a beautiful quote, which we'll share with everybody out there when we promote what you're doing. But I'm very delighted to have you in our community. And I thought before we even get started on the concept of grace, I'd just ask you to explain who you are. I know you're up in Winmalee in the Blue Mountains in New South Wales, and I know a little bit about you from what I read on your bio, but in a few well-chosen words, what do you do in the world?
Great question. I work with women to through kinesiology and energy medicine to release the stuck energy that is in their body, in their energy field, which is preventing them from moving forward, expanding into who they are wanting to become. It's this stuck energy that is, I mean, the image that's coming forward at the moment is we're having all these bags and we're on a journey and we have 60 bags that we have to, or that we've decided for whatever reason to carry around. And it's like, well, let's release a couple of those bags. Let's unpack them, find out what the gold or the medicine is in that bag, integrate that, and then move forward. So now we don't have 60 bags, we have 50 bags and that sort of thing. So it's really about lightening your load, bringing in more light into your body, into your energy field, so that you are able to shine more of your light into the world, whatever that looks like, whether you are a global leader or whether you are a mum with children and anything in between. It's not that you have to become anything. It's what is your soul desiring for you in becoming.
I love how you've explained that. It feels very essential, very essence. Yes, because it's not the outward form, is it? It's how you do it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Whatever you do, what do you bring to that? Yeah.
Mm,
Okay.
mm.
Thank you. Now I know. Everyone knows. And why have you chosen to work with women, just out of interest?
My own journey, I suppose, also being a woman, my own journey through trauma and unpacking my own 60 bags. um, and I have so much delight when I do work with, whether it's one-on-one or in groups, and seeing the the ahas, the change, the gentle unfolding of how they then go out into the world, and that sense of belonging to themselves. I think as women we belong. There's been this, well, not even belong, well, I suppose belong to others, belong to our partners, to our children, to our parents, to everyone else, and we give so much. but it's like come back to self
Mm.
and belong to self to then be able to be present for others.
You know what? I love that too, because it's, it's paradoxical, isn't it? By coming in and spending a little bit of time on the work that we do on ourselves, which has to be the hardest work of all, we're then able to give more. And as women, that's what we're here to do, and as men in different ways. But it is a different thing being a man, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, and in that context, or in all contexts, what does living in grace mean to you? Like, what images does that conjure up for you?
Images. Two images have come forward since you reached out, and one was of a river flowing, and the banks are like the hands of holding the river as we flow. Like we're actually in the river, and sometimes we're floating along, and it's just ease and graceful, and other times it's turbulent and life's happening and we're in that, but there's a sense of still being held even when we're in the turbulent side of things. But also grace is not only the riverbanks, it's the water, it's the river. And so that was one image that came forward of this being held, whatever I'm going through and experiencing. And then another image that came through was of a dancer, flowing and beautiful movements, this gorgeous, flowing, graceful look, but then moving into almost a chaotic expression of self, and this is when everything's moving. But this is grace moving through us as we live life.
Oh, powerful images, coming straight back to nature and the grace that by which we're here, it's part of nature. I love that. And I feel cuddled when you talk about those banks of the river. It just feels like arms, doesn't it? It just feels like nature holding us as we tumble by. And you're quite right. Although I guess I wouldn't have intuitively gone there, but in that chaos of day-to-day existence, then there is some kind of grace in that too. And it's when we can't stand out of that and look at it, then we're caught in that hurly-burly and we feel like there's no grace there whatsoever and we're just being buffeted around. But having that understanding of the deep embankments that hold us, really good. So I guess what I'm hearing from you is that grace is a kind of an understanding.
Yes, it's interesting. I almost feel like, how do you put language to something that is almost indefinable, but also is my experience? So this is through my map of the world, my experiences of what I think grace is. I certainly wouldn't say, well, this is what grace is, as in, I have the answer. My sense, it's not something to be earned. It's not that I'm a good girl, so I will get grace. It's not something that I have to work hard, so then I will earn grace. It just is. It is.
Thank you. It is, yeah. It's, as I watch you try to form the words around such an important concept, I'm thinking into Zen practices, Zen Buddhism. I don't know if you've ever dabbled yourself, but there's a word which is mu, which is M-U-U-U. And it's a word that's given as a koan, or a point of thinking, which helps bring people into enlightenment, or what I would like to think of as translucence these days, because I don't think there is any one point of enlightenment, but it makes us lighter, as you were saying. It brings in the light. And it's about that revelation that you just actually brought through just then, of it just is. Is, it's not something that we can define very well. Poor people who wrote the Webster dictionary, right? They even come up with what it was. I don't know. Yeah.
I think that's one of the things, though, in life, is that we want definition, we want certainty, and we want a box. I can now put this in a box, so then that is safe. And it's not boxable, it's not definable. And I'm sure if we were to have this conversation in a year's time, my sense, my feeling, my experience of grace will be different, because there's been 12 months since this call to the next call. And so it's ever unfolding, it's ever growing. I'm not sure if I like that word, but it's expanding, it's revealing.
Yes, absolutely. It's the uncovering, or the yes, I'm having the same trouble as you, but my mind is cast to a beautiful statement by M.K. Turner. And M.K. Turner she passed this year, but she was a beautiful Arente woman out from Western Deserts, and she brought a lot to the field of how do we change how we teach at schools, to bring something back that might fortify our children and strengthen our children and develop our children and ground our children in their birthright, which is connected to country and true health and wellness. And she used the word observe, learn, grow, love, which is a beautiful way to explain why we're here, and when you talk like that, it's like an ever expanding trajectory of into a more complete understanding of something that's so fundamental. Yeah. Lovely. So how do you feel that grace plays out for you in your personal and professional life? That's a big question.
It is. How does it play out? Last year I had an experience where I really did feel held the whole time it was about 6 months. It was going through a medical challenge and an operation. And yes, there were moments when I went through and experienced the fear and experienced the grief and allowed myself that moment of chaos and allowing that expression to come through. But the whole time there was this sense of floating through this experience of being guided, of having the right people come into my life, but also spending time connecting with what was going on and going deeper into myself. So instead of feeling that life was happening to me, life was happening through me and for me. Yeah, that would be how I would describe life at grace, is that life is through me and for me, as opposed to life happening at me, or it's and being in the now moment.
Yeah.
That's where grace is. It's in the now moment.
Beautiful. Do you think that your profession, or I don't know how many years you've spent in healing. How many years is it now?
20, well, professionally in the profession, 22 years. But prior to that, my own journey. But yeah, 22 years.
22 years. It's often how we come to it, isn't it? Through our own journey.
Yeah.
And do you think that through developing your profession,
Mm-hmm.
do you think that it has developed in you a sense of what grace is, or has given you an opportunity to bring that to your own life and to those you work with? Do you think there's something within the profession that you practice that's helped develop that?
Yes, certainly has. Certainly has. And I know the way that I respond to the experience in my life is a more grace-filled way than if I look at myself 22 years ago. I was certainly more reactive to life's experiences. And I think part of that is certainly maturing. But then doing my own work. Doing my own work so that I can hold a bigger space for myself, but also those that I work with and those that I come in contact with, not only through my work, but through life.
It's a funny definition, isn't it, that work or life?
Yes.
I do think that if your perspective is one of healing, then it's hard to stop working, or in your work, it's hard to stop living. I mean, they're not two separate worlds, are they?
No.
There's one of the big privileges for many of us who are therapists is being able to be privy to other people's experiences of life, their deeper experiences of life, and to go on that journey of learning alongside. Which, perhaps the biggest plus of that is that we expand our own epistemology or our own repertoire of life and are able to learn from that. So, 22 years is a long time in a profession. It's a long life too. And it's beautiful to hear that you feel that that's grown in you, that capacity.
Definitely.
The principles of the profession, do you think, of kinesiology, or what, besides a kinesiologist, you're a nutritionist. Are you a trained nutritionist, or have you come to it from a angle, or how does that?
No, I come from so I'm a coach, kinesiology, and my interest in food came from being a dancer and the negative beliefs and thoughts that go with being a dancer and needed to lose your weight. But then into where I really loved was raw food. And for me, that was, again, about bringing in more light through the food that we eat. We connect with Mother Earth and all that she provides with us. And we can bring this beautiful nourishment into our body through, for me, it was raw food and bringing in more light through the less processing of the food that I was consuming. And so I was teaching workshops with regards to raw food.
Oh, Again, I love what you say. I'm so glad that we're talking. I feel again in now, some of us are talking about it, and you just did. But I feel like out there in the general public, it will be understood within not so many years away that it's not only the vitamins, it's not only the minerals that are coming to you through that food, but it's the essence, and being able to pick something and absorb that essence and merge with that essence in your own body, that light, as you said, is where the health comes from. It's that again. It's almost like a prayer, isn't it? That's how
it is.
But it's like eating with respect and deep thanks. Yeah.
And I mean, connecting with the sunlight, like a salad bowl, connecting with the sunlight that has come through, and is part of this. I mean, that's what green plants do. They take the sunlight and make it chlorophyll. You are looking at a bowl of sunlight. You are looking at a bowl of air. You are looking at a bowl of water. You're looking at a bowl of fire and earth. It's all there. And that's what we're made of. These 4 elements. So we connect with it that way as well.
Could it be better? I don't think so. And so just as a parting thought, how do you feel that we can more fully live with grace? Like, what practices or focus or guidelines can we put in place? And I'm asking you to speak from your own experience, of course, but also as a therapist. You've just said raw food loud and clear. So,
yeah.
And that's a beautiful practice. And might I encourage everybody, if they do take that up, to use what we do in Japanese yoga, which is we do 50 chews per mouthful, which is allowing us to go into the mindfulness of each of the flavors that comes through and giving thanks to where that mouthful has originated from. But yes, other than raw food, what do you feel might be a few practices or hints or tips or focuses for those of us who are watching this?
For me, movement is something that helps me connect with what's going on inside me, but also connecting with something bigger than myself. So when I say movement, yes, movement of the body. So maybe putting on some music and moving. I don't call it dancing because people go, oh, I can't dance. It's like, no, it's not. It's okay. Well, with that music, how does my hand want to move? How does my foot want to move? How does my head want to move? And tuning into that. So that's one type of movement that I do. Another is moving the pen on the page. So not consciously drawing something, as in, say, drawing a house or a cloud or whatever. And it's not about being a perfectionist and creating something perfect. It's how do I want to express onto the page and what's coming forward, because it's in moving that energy I'm able to have a deeper understanding of what's going on for me, where I need to, what my next step is, what I'm calling in, and connecting to, I was about to say connecting to grace, but then that makes grace separate from me, and I don't see grace separate from me. So I'm not quite sure how to language that, but it's being able to connect to the energy consciousness of grace that is there. That is. I'll go back to that is. Yeah.
It's like the reconnection, because it's there all the time. It's just coming from a profession in which you've mentioned the release of trauma. If we can see trauma as a tightening or a resistance or a cutting off, or all of those things that are defensive, it's like moving through those layers of contraction that stop the light coming through. Yeah. Wow. That's a beautiful hint. And I hope that everybody that listens to this takes their shoes off, puts the music on, and does what their body is asking them to do. Yeah.
Coming back into the now moment.
Into the now. What a beautiful thought to end on. Yeah. Thank you so much for what you've said today and what you've shared. And it's really lovely because it feels like the way that you've talked or been here is not about so much the words as the essential you that you've shared, really. So I'm really, really appreciative of that. And I'm sure everybody else will be too. So thank you so much for joining us today, and may your Monday be full of grace.
Thank you so much, Kate, for this opportunity.